and changes that happen during your term in the council and also during your time as the president of the college. So I think the past presidents have decided to go by chronological order of office. So we shall start with Dr. Lee Suan Yew. Dr. Lee.
Okay, thank you, King Hong. Why don't you sit down?
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what you can gather from us past presidents here, but as far as we are concerned, we are honored to have served the college during our term of office. And we got to thank our fellow family physicians for their support. I don't think we had that kind of opposition that you're describing. We had pretty good unity, my time anyway. It was in the mid-80s. And at that time, we were called general practitioners. The name changed because it came during the period where we felt that there must be a new concept. And therefore, we had to follow advanced countries, and they use the word family physicians. Because the old general practitioner, GPs, gave a different connotation. Now we are called family physicians because primary to our treatment is a family. We may do hospital work like King Hong, but he's still dealing with families. So our emphasis is family. Most of us see patients of 3 generations. So let's start with. At that time, in the early 80s, if Alfred remember, we had the Wonka conference. That was the first big international conference that came to Singapore. And the college did it due to the good work of Alfred and Lee Gan and others who made a bid for it. We had 10,000 delegates to Singapore. And we worked very hard. They all worked very hard to make Wonka a success. And it was that period. I wasn't the president yet. I was in the committee, subcommittee to read all the papers. They were submitted and we had to select them. And luckily we had the chairperson for it was Professor, it was, Goligan was chairman, is it? No. Scientific papers. Was it Fred Samuel? Anyway, when we read the papers, we discovered that there's more to it than we thought in family medicine. That is a very solid family medicine practice that is taking place internationally. We learned a lot. When I read the papers, I said, my goodness, we are many steps behind. We got to do something about family practice. And we met the international people who came here. And they inspired us. And we learned something about more about family medicine. So then, during my term of office, I said, in that case, we must improve our continuing medical education. That was our primary function, to make sure that all our colleagues, old and young, must keep up to date. And things were changing very fast. I remember the first lecture I gave in the early 80s was cholesterol. You just imagine that. At that time, we were eating eggs and all the fatty stuff happily. And it was in the early 80s that the world discovered that cholesterol is bad for our cardiovascular system. So there you are. I just give you one example how important continuing medical education was. So we kept on going. Every month we had one lecture. And we invited guests, senior, people, some from the family physician or GPs at the time, some from the university, some were practicing specialists in Singapore. And we learned a lot from them. Number two, at that time, we were still young in a postgraduate diploma course called the MCGP. And luckily, we kept on having that exam, thinking that maybe that way we have a proper course, proper examination, and there was no question of, all we wanted was to improve yourself, and the diploma proved that you went through the course, and when you passed it, you knew that you've attained a certain level. There was nothing attached to that diploma. It doesn't mean that you can earn more. And we told them, when you get the diploma, you must not overcharge your patients. It doesn't mean that you're a super doctor. It's just that you prove that you're kept up with continuing medical education. And the hospitals were very helpful. The Ministry of Health, people were very helpful. We were able to get cases from the Singapore General Hospital for clinical cases. We had cases from Alexandra Hospital. And I still remember Chan Ai-ju was then the perm sec. She was amazed that family physicians could hold exams. We had clinical papers. You pass the papers, and you see, you pass your theory, then you go to the hospitals, and we got examiners from overseas and local examiners. And we had lovely cases presented by the hospitals who helped us. And that way, we kept on going. We had more and more doctors who passed the MCGP exam. That was the seed that was planted for the next phase. By that time, it was Dr. Koh Eng Keng who passed away, bless his soul. And then, when he took over the college, the Ministry of Health and the university said, we must go one step further. Why not? Why not work with the university and have the MEd of family medicine? So Goldie Gunn, Alfred Lowe, and a few others, we were invited to the steering committee to work with the university, with the postgraduate medical school. And we said this is the right time that we should have a proper postgraduate examination called the MEd bracket family medicine. Then, with the examination, I think Keng Hock was one of the pioneers who passed. I remember that. He was one of the very good doctors, and he sailed through without any trouble. And I see some other faces I recognize when they came for the exams. And we got to thank the Ministry of Health for their trust in us. We have to thank the university for trusting us. And we are partners. And from then on, I heard now we have over how many graduates? More than 200 graduates. We started with maybe 5 or 6 only. 17, is it? I think it's the first batch.
Time pass.
Amen. Time simply passed. It's amazing.
16 set, time pass.
Yes. Which year was it? We had
1993.
93. And it is wonderful. And I don't know whether I have a right to mention to you, Keng Hock, do you mention to the college, to the audience, that the next phase, this is all we're going step at a time. The next phase is we're going to have an AJM. Can I mention it? Okay, I mentioned it. This is the good news for our college, that the master of the Academy of Medicine wrote to us and said that it is time now that we get invited to join the Academy of Medicine as a college to be part of the family medicine for those who have the postgraduate degree, and we should be called specialists, family physician specialists on our own right. This is to follow what the Americans have done, And I think this is the right time that at the AGM of the Academy of Medicine, soon to come, and the college, and I hope you give your support, whether you have the postgraduate degree or not, we all work together. We must all try our best to give our shoulder, put our shoulder to the wheel. And for those who are older and had no chance to do postgraduate, we need your shoulders to climb above and keep on improving so that the college will keep on improving. And I hope that the AGM will approve the whole concept of joining the Academy of Medicine and put the Family of Medicine at par to other specialists. And it's about time. And I must say that the college members do not disappoint us. So I think I've spoken enough. I'll pass the mic to somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee. And I feel tingling and inspired as before, as usual. Thank you very much. And maybe at this juncture, I will just ask the other past presidents to give their views on this matter, as well as things that they have happened during their term. Dr. Loh, would you like to continue?
Thank you, King Hock. I think in as far as the issue of specialization eventually being considered for family medicine, I think it is not surprising because all around the world, especially those societies where aging is a problem, it is becoming recognized that the cost-effective way to keep the health expenditure down is to make sure you have good, well-trained family doctors at par with any other specialty. So for family medicine to be specialists, those with properly trained background, it is only a natural way to go. In the early days, when the World Organization was formed in 1972, from 1972 to the year 2000, the membership in the World Organization was 64. Between 2000 and 2010, that membership grew to 128, which goes to show that worldwide, all these ministries and governments are beginning to recognize that properly trained family doctors will definitely be the way to go to keep health costs down. So I think we are going on the right way. We should not stop just because we have already achieved the initial objectives of our earlier leaders. I think it's to move on and encourage more of our family doctors to go on and improve themselves and be fellows of the college and eventually join the academy as a specialist. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Loh. Prof. Lim?
Well, you have heard Xuan Yu and Alfred talk about our academic achievements and the postgraduate qualifications that our doctors have achieved, our family physicians. I want to tell you that, producing specialists and specialist degrees is only one end of the story. The graduates or the specialists with the further degrees must prove themselves. And I just want to tell you that over the years, out in private practice, I've noticed that those family physicians who have got their Masters of Medicine or the graduate diploma in family medicine have proven themselves so much that patients have come back to me and they say, I went to see such and such a GP and I noticed after the consultation, I was so happy and pleased that he's got an MMed beside his name. I said, that's the postgraduate degree. So producing graduate specialists is only one end of the story. I must tell you that these postgraduate family physicians have proven themselves to the point that even the hospital, the institutions, I remember, have invited us to go and participate in their monthly ward rounds. As family physicians, we were invited to go back to the various disciplines, in orthopedics, in pediatrics, in all the different disciplines, and we were invited to participate in their monthly specialist rounds. So this gives further credence that we are not only producing family physician specialists, but effective and recognizable and well-planned family physicians. I just also want to mention that to go back, over the years, as Suan Yu mentioned, were in the 1980s. But I want to bring you back to the 1970s, when our council was first formed. The first council was in 1972. I served in the second council in 1975. And at that time, we were producing MCGPs. That means you go and sit for a postgraduate degree, and it's called a member of the College of Family General Practitioners. And the ministry recognized it as a registrable postgraduate degree. It was recognized the moment we produced graduates in MCGP, the ministry recognized it as a registrable postgraduate degree. So I'm glad to mention that the ministry all along has worked with us in the days of the 1970s to now, and we are happy that they are still continuing to do so. And I think the other members will give you their different views, but I just want to mention that our family physicians have done us proud. Thank you.
I would like to take off from what Dr. Lee Suan Yu mentioned just now about family medicine will be recognized as a specialty by the Academy of Medicine in Singapore. I come from a tradition of internal medicine. I train internal medicine. So in a sense, I'm not lucky to be formally trained as a family physician. So I think Dr. Lee Suan Yu, Lee Gan and I share the same thing. But I would say we are in a so-called generalist table: internal medicine, general pediatrics, geriatrics, and now family medicine. It's just a specialty of generalist specialty. I think generalist specialties are needed in medicine because it fills in the gaps between many things. And I think generalist treatment and so forth is many times very important for the life course of the patient. The other thing I'd like to say during my time is that in fact, I'm quite proud to start the program we call Master of Medicine Program B. There is the opportunity for doctors who did not have the opportunity to go to formal training, residency and so forth, to go through the masters. And in fact, it's an informal program. I mean, it's not even so-called formally funded. And in fact, it's self-funded. I'd like to say that we have more than 100 people in family medicine trained through this course. And some of them are here tonight. And in particular, I'd like to tell you a story. We started at above my clinic. There's a training ground where people like Tan Si Ling and many others come every week for almost 2 years to train themselves. And it's all self-funded. I remember Tan Si Ling, when he passed his examination, he donated $1,200 to buy a photocopier because he don't even have a photocopier for the notes. And I think such spirit, went on. And I think, I frankly think that this project should be supported because it's very little money added to the passion of people, and that will bring, I think, a lot of benefit to the profession. The other thing I'd like to say is that we have a system of training now leading to the fellowship. And I think this is quite unique compared to many countries. In fact, if you look at even Australia, their fellowship is, they do not have a special program for fellowship. Their training is perhaps up to our master's level. So I would say that we should be proud of that, but I think it's a matter of capacity. The numbers are not enough to make a difference. So I will appeal that to all the people here to make sure that the numbers are enough to make a difference. And lastly, frankly, I don't know why I'm here. Because in the year 2006, which is 8 years ago, I threw a great big party for all my friends and said I will retire henceforth. and I suppose my wife has to resign to the fact now that you'll see a bit more of me in the next few months until the things get stabilized. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, well, I'm the immediate past president, and as Professor Lee Keng Hock said, what happened under my watch, and what else can I recall? I think the most important thing that happened under my watch when I was president from 2007 to 2011 was the hosting of the Wonka World Conference the second time round. That was the 18th conference in 2007. Actually, the president for that year is supposed to be Professor Cheong, right? But I said, look, Goligan, I don't know all these work fellas, you had better go and fund the show. So I therefore took over from him 1 year, a bit more premature, and hosted the World Conference. Now that was the defining thing for us because it is quite a prestige to host the World Conference a second time round. But I want to say two other things. The other thing is that I actually did a fair bit of the technical things in the college. I suppose I'm the technical president in the sense that what my colleagues say, I will go and carry out. So I remember when I was a council member, and that was when we passed the idea of setting up family medicine as a postgraduate program. And at that time, Dr. Lee Suan Yew was the president. So he said, look, Monica, you are in the EU, can you go and settle all the technical things? So I said, okay. So I remember one evening, somewhere in December, it's about 12 o'clock midnight, I went to his house. I said, Suan Yew, you got to sign these papers because tomorrow I'm going to submit it to this professor, this talk, prof talk. Yeah? Okay, so with that, of course, we formed the Masters in Family Medicine. Then I discovered that, look, Master in Family Medicine is hard to fly. So I was talking to Professor Cheong. I said, hey, this thing a high attrition rate. What shall we do with the people who drop out? So Prof. Cheong said, look, why don't you start Program B? And that's how Program B was born in 1995, right? And then I look again, my goodness, the people that did family medicine, a lot of them drop out. Maybe we did a second tier. So rather than have one jump, why don't we have two jumps? So I created the idea of the graduate diploma in family medicine. And that was in 2000 that we started the program. And 2002, we had the first batch. I think today we got about 600 people who got the graduate diploma. So I think we did the right thing together. Now there's one other thing that I created, or rather I was party to, and that is to set up the fellowship program. Because we did the diploma program, we said, look, we had better have more people who are trained. So therefore, that was the genesis of the fellowship program. So in 2000, we actually had the graduation of the first batch of fellows. I think there were 8 of them. So people like Paul Goh is one of these people. There were 8 of them. And was King Hawk as well. Okay, so that was what I did in the past in trying to get family medicine to be on the main road, as it were. But there's one other thing that I want to say before I hand the mic back to King Hawk, and that is what I'm going to do into the future. I think into the future, we need to grow the pipeline of family medicine, that's for sure. But how do you grow it? So we would certainly need to have a program that gives people a specialty. I think family medicine, without being a specialty attached to it, is not going to fly, that I'm sure. But there's one other thing that has been troubling people in the Ministry of Health ever since the family medicine program was started. And that's how do you get the family doctors to charge if they are specialists. Of course, this is a thing that I don't think it will bankrupt the patient, neither will it bankrupt the state if you have a specialty. Rather, by having family medicine as a specialty, I can see that the number of referrals to the hospital and to the specialist probably will come down, and that will be a saving. And then the number of patients admitted for complications should also come down, and the people for readmission also should come down. So my feel is that family medicine is not going to bankrupt the patient, neither the state. So I think we should take heart on that. Of course, there's also the idea of how do you pay family doctors. Basically, I would say that at the moment, everything is paid as acute rate. But into the future, there's such thing called chronic disease. You need more time, maybe 2 units of time. So if the family medicine consultation is $25 for chronic disease, maybe double that. And then the complex conditions, maybe triple that. Now, there will be some way of time-based charging, but these are some thoughts of mine. I think certainly it's going to go through the processes of my colleagues as well. So these are my thoughts of past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you, past presidents. Yeah, that is really a good trip down memory lane. Yeah, the good old days, without ACGME, protected time, we are all busy GPs, but on our own time, we wanted to study. So we sacrificed family time, we sacrificed sleeping time, and we just gather together. And through all this, we make lifelong friends, you know. I mean, among all the senior family physicians of my generation, we met each other through the exams, through this little extra story above Prof. Chong's clinic. So I think this is what bond people together, you know. Sometimes when you get too clinical and too calculative, you know, a lot of things get lost. You know, checklists and things like that. But I think this is the great times. But I have to make a confession. I make a confession is that I did not pass my MMed exam the first try. So yeah, I did not breeze through because yeah, I was young and I can't control my speech very well. So Prof. Go will remember that I said something very that was considered inappropriate by the external examiner, who was this very senior and serious white-hair professor from UK. So I think I was criticizing the healthcare system even then. So you can see this is my habit.
Maybe you'd like to hear why King Hawk did not get through. Actually, he did not get through because it's no good. He did not get through because he was politically honest. He says, we are just GPs. And the external examiner got upset with him and said that how can you pass a chap who say we're just GPs? So our poor Lee King Hawk has to go down and take the exam the second time, which he passed very well. So I think I would say that even though he failed the first exam, he's honest about it, that he sincerely believes